Aldous Huxley and Brave New World. The dystopia that feels good, people, are born with a mind that doesn't just see the world for what it is, but for what it's becoming. They are visionaries, prophets of the modern age, people whose warnings echo long after they're gone. Aldous Huxley was one of those people. He was born into an elite British family in 1894, surrounded by scientists, intellectuals, and some of the greatest minds of his time. His grandfather was Thomas Henry Huxley, a close friend of Charles Darwin, one of the most influential evolutionary biologists of the 19th century. As a young man, he was struck by a near-blinding illness that left him struggling to read and write. But rather than slow him down, this forced him to develop his mind in other ways. Instead of just seeing the world through books, he became an observer of society, of human nature, of how people interacted and how governments controlled them. He studied science, literature, and psychology, and it wasn't long before he started seeing patterns others ignored. In the early 20th century, Huxley watched as the world transformed. The Industrial Revolution had changed everything. Henry Ford had introduced the assembly line, making mass production the new standard, not just for cars, but for everything. Consumerism was rising. People were starting to think of themselves as products, defined by what they owned, what they consumed. At the same time, mass media and advertising were beginning to shape how people thought, what they desired, even what they believed. Huxley realized something terrifying. The future of oppression wouldn't look like chains and whips. It would look like entertainment and pleasure. Unlike Orwell, who predicted a future where people were controlled by pain and surveillance, Huxley feared a world where control came from distraction, indulgence, and comfort. He saw how behavioral psychology was being used to manipulate people, how companies, politicians, and the media were learning to control thoughts without force, simply by shaping what people paid attention to. He saw how technology was making people more passive, more dependent, less willing to challenge authority. And in 1932, he put all of these fears into one groundbreaking novel, Brave New World. The World of Brave New World. Imagine a world where no one is unhappy, where there's no war, no crime, no suffering. Everything is clean, efficient, and optimized for one thing: pleasure. But beneath this perfect surface, there's something missing, something human. This is the world state, a global government that has eliminated suffering, but in doing so has also erased freedom, individuality, and deep thought. There is no war, no poverty, no hunger, but there is also no love, no creativity, no personal ambition. There are no families, no mothers, no fathers, no children. People are no longer born naturally. Instead, they are manufactured in laboratories, grown in bottles, designed for a specific role in society. Here, humans are created using the Bokanovsky process, a technique that allows a single embryo to split into 96 identical clones. This process ensures stability, because identical people with identical lives never question their place in society. The world is divided into a strict caste system. Alphas, the elite, the leaders, the scientists, betas. Intelligent, but subordinate gammas, deltas, and epsilons. The lower classes, designed for menial labor, conditioned to love their servitude. But how do you make sure people stay in their place? The answer? Conditioning. From birth, babies are brainwashed in their sleep with repeated phrases, gammas are happy, gammas love to work. Epsilons don't need to think. Thinking is dangerous. This is hypnopedia, or sleep teaching, a method used to ensure no one ever questions the system. And if, by some chance, they do, there is always Soma. Soma, the perfect drug for the perfect society. What if every time you felt stress, sadness, or even a hint of discomfort, you could take a pill and feel nothing but bliss? That's Soma. Soma is the ultimate tool of control. It has no side effects, no withdrawals, just pure pleasure. It numbs people to reality. If someone starts thinking too much, feeling too much, questioning too much, they simply take a few grams of Soma and all the worries disappear. Everything is fast, shallow, and disposable, including relationships. Love is forbidden, replaced by casual sex. A popular phrase in the world state is, everyone belongs to everyone else. There is no passion, no jealousy, no deep emotional bonds, only instant gratification. But not everyone fits in. Bernard Marx, the misfit of the world state. Our story begins with Bernard Marx, an alpha, one of the elite. But something about him is off. He's shorter and weaker than the other alphas, making him an outsider. And unlike the others, he thinks too much. Bernard feels different. While everyone else embraces Soma, mindless pleasure and shallow entertainment, he resents it. He hates that relationships are meaningless. He despises the way people accept everything without question. And yet, Bernard isn't a hero. He doesn't want to change the system. He just wants a better place in it. Bernard's love interest is Lenina Crown, a beta. Unlike Bernard, she fits in perfectly. She enjoys the world state, its pleasures, its lack of deep emotion. She doesn't understand Bernard's dissatisfaction. One day, Bernard gets permission to visit the Savage Reservation, a place outside the world state where people still live in tribal, natural ways. Lenina joins him, hoping for a fun adventure. But what they find there changes everything. Outside the world state, hidden in the desert, there is another way of life. A world where people still age, still feel pain, still experience love, family, and religion. A world that the citizens of the world state consider barbaric. It is here that Bernard and Lenina meet John the Savage. John is different. He was born in the reservation, but his mother came from the world state. He was raised on stories of the civilized world, but never belonged anywhere. John grew up reading Shakespeare, his only window into a world of passion, love, and tragedy. To him, the world state is a dream, a utopia he has always longed to see. When Bernard offers to bring him back, John eagerly agrees. He believes he is finally going to find a world where he belongs. He is wrong. At first, John is fascinated by the world state. The technology, the endless pleasure, the lack of suffering, it seems like paradise. But soon, he realizes it is empty. He sees how people treat relationships as nothing, how they take Soma to escape real emotions, how they have no concept of love, sacrifice, or meaning. John falls in love with Lenina, but to her, love is meaningless. When he confesses his feelings, she simply offers casual sex. the only form of affection she understands. John is disgusted. He calls her a whore. John realizes this is not a utopia. It's a nightmare. A world where people are slaves to their own pleasure. John tries to rebel. He throws away Soma. He tries to wake people up, but they just laugh at him. To them, he is a joke. Entertainment, nothing more. In the end, John isolates himself in a lighthouse, trying to escape. But the world state won't leave him alone. They keep watching, mocking, documenting his every move. John realizes there is no escape. And so he makes his final choice. That night, alone in the lighthouse, John takes his own life. The next morning, when people arrive expecting another show, they find his lifeless body hanging from the rafters. Huxley leaves us with a chilling realization. John's attempt to escape was futile because the world state had already won. It didn't need to control him with force or violence. It only needed to consume him, turning his suffering into a product of amusement. Are we living in Brave New World? We live in a world where people are distracted 24/7 by social media, entertainment, consumerism. Dopamine addiction keeps us hooked to instant gratification, unable to focus on deeper thinking. We rely on pharmaceuticals and digital escapes to avoid pain or discomfort. People choose comfort over truth because thinking critically is too inconvenient. The terrifying thing about Brave New World isn't that people are oppressed. It's that they love their oppression. They are happy slaves, willingly numb. Let's not be comfortably numb. Thank you for listening.